And last but not least, man, let's talk about the Woman King.
Right.
Um, First time I saw the trailer for this, I think it was like a few months back. Cause I didn't hear any word about any development of this show, right? It
Yeah.
just the trailer just kind of dropped, and I was like, all right, Viola Davis, she is warrior woman, and she with a bunch of like African warrior women. Okay, that looks great. I want to see that. It's kind of funny that because we're both looking forward to seeing Black Panther Wakanda Forever, right? And here this movie drops like right before that, right? I don't think that it will affect its performance in the box office or legacy long term, right? Because of its drop, right? But this find is really interesting that this thing dropped like right before we get Wakanda Forever, right? But yeah. But saw the trailer for it, and yeah, I was definitely excited by this, man. And
Yeah.
Ricardo, if you don't mind, I wanted to do the synopsis first, right? For me, what really sold it was just all right. It's historical. It's based off of historical events, right? It's
Right.
a historical epic, pretty much, right? And this is nothing new in Hollywood. We've had many great historical epics over the years,
Right.
right? But we've
Braveheart,
never seen Braveheart,
Passion of
Gladiator,
the Christ. Yeah.
Passion Christ, for example. I'll mention Braveheart in my review of this, right?
Yeah.
I really mention Braveheart in this, right? But yeah, we haven't seen anything like this, like something that's centered on women, and not
Right.
just women but they're warriors, right? And it's in Africa, and it involves tribal wars and slavery and all that kind of stuff. We've never seen something like this before, right? And again, it's Stanley Gill, Viola Davis, right? Oscar winner, right? So yeah, I mean the excitement levels were high with this, right? And as you mentioned earlier on with Intergalactic, right? Talking about films that from the 2000s or whatnot. The director, Gina Maria Price
Right.
Bythewood, right? She made Love and Basketball.
Right. Yeah.
I think that was one of her first films, right? And
Yeah.
she also did The Old Guard, which I thought
Right.
was good,
Okay.
not great,
Okay.
but it was good. One by the way, we were supposed to get a sequel for it, but we didn't get to see a trailer for that until them too. But yeah, they're working on a sequel, so yeah, I hope it's better than the original one, right? But
Right.
yeah, man, Woman King is out. I saw it. Ricardo, you had the pleasure of experiencing this in
Gulf
well
City.
I should say in Gulf City Mall. So
Yeah.
yeah, so you could talk about your experience there whilst talking about the film itself. So yeah, Ricardo, take it away. The Woman King. What is it about?
Right. Yeah. So, well, we're just going to talk about just the quick little Cinema One gemstone. As I say, gemstones on the dinner plate, right? They pretty good experience. I thought they were just trying. Now they have a kind of trial run this weekend. From the time of this recording, it was the weekend that just passed. I was talking about this on Monday, so I went Friday evening. And yeah, it was pretty cool. I just went to see Woman King there, and well, in my perspective, I could literally walk to go see a movie now, which is great. I love that. Uh, it's real simple. You just go and you pay normal gemstone prices. I think it's $70. That's great. As far as I know, they may or may not have alcohol there. That's the only problem. So I don't know in the long run if I could casually like have a glass of wine while watching my thing. But that's about it. I just went there. We had a couple drinks. That was cool. But yeah, no alcohol, which is I assume. But that's small thing. Whatever. Compared to the wine, you could get whole bottles of wine up in the north, right? But anyway, um, this movie, yes. So, well, we can talk about it just before just getting into this. We can talk about the little drama it had with going into the movie, which was basically, in my opinion, just a kind of right wing up. I'll say it's very similar to remember when everybody was like, "Oh, Black Panthers all about ethno nationalism and an isolationist thing." And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
remember that sort of weirdo right wingers that they had like MAGA hats on Black Panther in a Photoshop or some bullshit like that. And then
Mm.
it just translates into AKA idiots who don't watch the movie. Very similar conceit here. Like a lot of people having a sort of outrage over this movie. I know the movie promoting slavery and so on. So it's like, yeah, that's not the movie. And if you watch a movie, it actually has that quite balanced. And again, it doesn't really matter in that sense because it's again comparable to Braveheart, right? In that sense of not really meant to be this historically accurate thing, but the film addresses that. People just kind of was bullshitting it again. People who did not see the movie. Anyway, as for the movie itself, it's the early 19th century, um,
Yes, yes.
1820s. Naniska played by oh gosh, what's her name?
Viola Davis.
Viola Davis, right? Yeah,
You know
Naniska,
the great.
yeah, General Naniska. Yeah, she's the all-female group of the Ajule. They in the beginning they free some Dahomian women and by slavers, and then they capture some of the self. Um, Gezo played by my boyfriend. Oh gosh,
Yeah.
John
John Boyega. John Boyega is in
right?
this. Yeah.
Yeah. He is the new king. He's pretty young, but he have a good vision, and then he was trying to subvert, what his older brother was doing. Yeah, I think it was like recently after a coup, and basically they just have to like make the conceit with a new person who was effectively sold to them. Well, given away by the father. In the storyline, this young girl who, well, we have two people from a show with our favorite show from
Yeah,
last year.
on Underground Railroad, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I was
yeah,
surprised to see
yeah.
Tuso
So
Bebedu, right? Yeah, she's in
Bebedu,
this,
right?
right?
And then Sheila Atim, right?
Sheila Atom, yeah, who
Yeah,
was
yeah,
in one of the most uh, emotionally like gut punching episodes of the Underground Railroad,
yeah,
man.
yeah. So it's two of them,
Yeah.
right? So yeah. The story, a big part of the story is about her character, Tuso, right? Where her father wanted to marry off Nari. Her
Yeah,
father wanted to
Nawi.
yeah. The father wanted to marry her off to some old asshole, and she was like, "Yeah, I ain't having none of this." And the father's like, "All right, well, you gotta leave and go to be more or less sold to the king and become one of the tribe. If she could survive, she could." And that's basically what it is. But then you start learning things about these characters, about how they might be a lot more connected. And Sheila Team Amenza's character, she's the kind of the spiritual character. She believes in basically the hocus pocus of the world. But her prophecies seem to have come true, where somebody from
Mhm.
her past comes to her, and it's more than one person in that
Yeah.
sense. Comes to General Naniska. And then they're building up the conceit of the leader of the Oyo. I forget this guy's name. Um, the general of the Oyo. He's the head of the Oyo. The guy with the beard.
Oba
Oba.
Ari.
Oba. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He basically kind of the idea is to start directly whether or not they want to attack the homie, and whether or not, and then they connect it to the Portuguese, and this is where story gets a little spicy. In terms of who selling slaves to who, and you realize they were the traffic into the slave trade, and then Naniska's character is like, nah, well, we should just diversify and just not sell people, and they get into that whole thing, and so that's why the film I thought was perfectly fine in that sense. She wanted to get into palm oil, right, and
Yeah.
make that aspect of it. And then, you learn now he's a lot much more connected to Naniska than we thought she was, involved in
Oh,
something
yeah.
very, very important.
Mhm.
And that's where the story builds from there. It's now his arc in terms of becoming an Ajole and becoming better and smarter. Naniska facing her past and the demons, and then the overall conceit of, the Dahomey and how to survive and all this nonsense involving the Portuguese. And of course,
Yeah.
there's another side boy from Brazil, which he has kind of an arc with his mother being formerly the homie and him coming back to, reconnect in a way to a certain
Yeah.
extent. Him connecting to
But
Nawi.
how can we forget Lashana Lynch, who plays
Well, Shana,
Soki?
she's kind of a side character, to be honest. She's just
Yeah,
like
but
she's
she's basically
training.
the one who kind of takes Nawi under her wing
Right,
and
right. She's the training
teaches her how to
badass.
fight. Yeah.
Right, she's to facilitate Nawi's arc. She's the training badass character who just tell jokes and be funny, and but then have a tragic story on she own. And I really like this movie. I thought that this was kind of excellent, to be honest. It kind of
Agreed.
covers almost everything. It really covers its bases. They make it really, really work. There's only really one thing about it that kind of holds it back, but not really. And that's the budget, right? The budget was a little small. It kind of showed at times. Editing was a little, little closer at times, but that was about it. I didn't have any major problems with it. Viola Davis was great. She looked the part. She feels like an older woman. It makes sense. Her having to rise up. They do some interesting stuff with the gender issues with her and the wives versus Gezo's wives. Gezo's wives plotting and scheming, especially this one wife in particular. And
Well, the body of the group.
Yeah, the bad, yeah,
Yeah.
but then Gezo himself, played by Boyega, who's pretty good. He, he really had her ear. And then well, the head of the male side of the army as well. They were the ones who still was they had the most respect now. She didn't really have the respect because she helped him in the coup, right? And all of that now. Yeah, and then they make it work for what it is. I think it was her name Ife, was the girl?
I think so. I think so. That's all. Let me find it.
Yeah. I
Effie,
think it's
Effie.
Ife. She was
Oh
like
yeah,
a Miss.
Effie.
Yeah, she was I think a Miss Universe or something like that, if I remember
Oh,
correctly.
that explains it. That
Yeah, she
explains
find
it.
she find herself. She bad.
Oh
But yeah,
yeah. Oh,
and they just have they do reasonably nuanced politics. They have again the Portuguese guy. This is I think it's Ray Fiennes' grandson, I think, or kid. This
oh,
dude.
is he really?
Yeah, I think he related to Ray Fiennes. I think either his son or his grandson. I can't remember. But yeah.
All right. That's all right. Hero finds. Hero finds. Tiffin. That's his name.
Okay. Santo Ferreira, he's pretty good. He just played the scumbag. They didn't make him too deep. There's enough you need to know. Roughly based
I like
on
that.
historical figures. And then well they have my boy come straight out of Bridgerton.
Oh yes, the
Yeah.
oh gosh, the Portuguese guy that
Yeah, the
oh
Brazilian
yeah,
character.
Jordan Bulger, yeah.
Yeah. Listen, my boy comes straight out of Bridgerton. But they know what they're doing with that. They make it work. But he was good.
Make it work, yeah.
Malik, he's pretty good. They gave him a good arc in terms of like the mom and how his mom was kidnapped and he tracked her back, and even John Boyega's mom as well was also sold, and he couldn't find her. So, and that was by his older brother, because again, his older brother, his father, I can't remember who he took over from, the details. But yeah, they just had a really solid conceit and script. They make it work. Good drama. Viola Davis really held it as the lead. She covered a range of emotions and conceits. They really feel for the stress. Susan Mbedu as Nawi, I thought she's a star. She really have a future. In my opinion, give she a 10 years now, and we can make something work for her. But I thought she was good. She was real good in Underground Railroad. I loved her in that. But in this,
she was amazing in that.
Yeah. But in this, she was also great. She really held it together as the main character and what she was about. And then they give her a nice nice tragic arc in some ways, right? In terms of like what happened to Lashana Lynch and what they tried to do, and in terms of like the context of slavery and it basically, well, around this time the slavery was starting to wrap up, so Israeli who was desperate to still need slavery for money now, and really the Portuguese was the only ones who was really kind of catching the ass, right? The British started to like write it out, and again all of that, so geopolitical game theory reasons as to why they're getting rid of slavery, but at the same time, they had to make the conceit for what it was. And yeah, I thought this was good. I think it is one of those movies that does everything. It really does the 4-quadrant thing and cover everything in terms of what you need. It clearly marketed to young girls, but even dudes like me could like it, and I enjoyed it for what it was. And yeah, they make it work. I have very few problems with this as it is. Yeah, that's just my original, my first start there.
Yeah, I absolutely enjoyed this movie, man, and
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to see it with a crowd. It wasn't a large crowd, but they
Right.
were an active crowd. I must say, though, they were
Right.
laughing. They actually did something that I haven't heard in a movie. Sorry, during a movie going experience in a while. They clapped, they cheered. Yes, like near the end, it was like, yeah, you know what I mean. And it just took me back to just to the glory days of just watching big budget movies like that, like in the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah.
Yes, I do agree with you. Budget is an issue because when you hear historical epic, you want to see sweeping shots and grand establishing shots or whatnot, right?
Right.
But I felt like they could have been more involved. They could have been more
Right.
involved, but I feel as it is a budgetary issue. It does
Yeah.
kind of feel a little small, like in terms of
Yeah.
the scope of the film, right? Um, in terms of its historical accuracy, right? 'Cause I know that was one of the issues that people had going into this, right? I would pull up something like Braveheart, for example, a show that
Right.
a lot of people love. I love it. I have it on Blu-ray. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. But in no way is that like the exact way how William Wallace's story played out, right? It's not, right? It's a fictionalized version of it, but it's just meant to just touch on the particular aspects of the individual. So at least it kind of stays true to the source material, right? And the same thing goes with this, right? So I won't say that I know anything about Naniska and the Agojili, right?
Yeah.
Agojili, I believe that's what it's called, right? Yeah, I
Right.
don't know
Right.
anything about them, right? But the show was just so well put together, Dread, that I want to learn more about this. And even
Yeah.
if I were to find out that half the stuff in this movie didn't play out the way it did, especially like with Naniska and King Gezo, um, it still wouldn't take me away. It still wouldn't like reduce the amount of enjoyment I had for this man. Like for me, this film really did feel like it was, again, it's fictionalized, but it's staying true to what the idea of the what the theme of this is about. It's about empowerment. It's about being stronger than you actually think you are, right? And yeah, that is just such a universal theme, right? Regardless of sex, right? Regardless of gender, I should say,
You're
regardless
right.
of nationality and race and whatnot. That is such a universal theme, right? But the mere fact that it's black women just puts this on a whole different level as well too. And yeah, you're right, I do imagine a lot of young girls like watching this and just really being motivated and inspired by this, right? The acting across the board is great though.
Yeah.
Viola
Everybody's
Davis,
good.
she
Yeah.
crushes it though. I like that she just plays this wedded down warrior who has been through a lot of hell. I like that, like even the moments where she's talking down to her her co her team now, her teammates,
Yeah.
if you will, though. It totally works. It feels like, yeah, she's been through a lot of hell. She's been through a lot of battles, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mental, physical, whatnot. So yeah, even if she dropped the ball, there's a moment where Isuki, or I think it's her, or not Nawi, Amenza. Either one of the two kind of calls she out for some for a mistake that she make,
That
and
was
she's
right.
all
Yeah.
like,
I
"Well,
know you're talking about.
at least we're still alive, Is that kind of thing,
Right.
or even like don't even study about me, and it's all about our survival. Like just how she responds to things like that is totally felt totally logical to me, right? Um, to so Mebedudu, she shines in this too. Like
Yeah.
I was just watching face like, oh right, you was in the Underground Railroad, which we loved, we absolutely loved one. Yeah, here she shines as well too, right? They
Hmm.
make her look way younger than she actually is right now, Dread,
Right. Yeah.
because she in she early 30s, but the character she plays is
This is
17
19.
and
Yeah. The
um
character's 19. Yeah.
19, right? Yeah, and I
Yeah.
I watch it. She's like, yeah, she kind of look 19. Sorry, the face,
Right.
the face. She has a really young face, right? But it
You're right.
totally works, right? Lashana Lynch, she was great. She was a
Yeah. Funny.
crowd delight.
Yeah.
Every time she was on stage, she just has that look about her. But it's how she was just kind of talking with Nawi and this kind of scene there. Trust me, I'm the badass. I know what to do. It works, right? I like her Mensa as well too, right? And even Sheila Atom has a particular look about her. Um, I'm gonna just say this out there: if they ever decide to do a Grace Jones biopic, Castle,
Right.
she
Okay.
have a Grace Jones look up to her though.
Right.
And as I say Grace Jones though, I think it's pretty interesting because if you remember a little movie called Conan the Destroyer, not a great sequel to Conan the Barbarian, i.e. one of the greatest movies ever made. Yeah, Grace Jones was a warrior. She was
Yeah.
a warrior, right? So I know every time I saw Sheila's character, I was just thinking about her, right? The surprise for me though was John Boyega, boy,
Right.
as King
He was
Gezo,
good.
boy.
I thought he was
He
great. Yeah.
Yeah, he was good too. Like the moments that he was there, because he's not in the film that much, right? Yeah, he totally shined though. Accent, mannerisms, he got all that down, right? I like that they gave him a role to play in this, because no, he's not out there fighting the villains and whatnot, right? But they give him a role to play in this, right? More political, more in terms of where my role is in terms of slavery, how my other tribes look at me and how people see me as a king and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it totally works. I like the tension that was going on in terms of who might be like trying to usurp him, or who pretty much want to go their own way and not follow his rules and all that kind of stuff. I really dug that, right?
Yeah.
um I did not expect the Portuguese slavers. I didn't expect that angle, particularly with the characters of Santo and Malik. I didn't see that one coming, but it totally works. I like that they give you like the flip side into you know how the slave trade was viewed, right? To Santo is like it's all about making money and and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, right? to Malik is like, well, look, is human beings that you're pretty much, trading off dread for food stuff and whatnot, right? And in the back of my mind, I was telling myself, I was wondering if people would have an issue with his relationship, if you will, with Nawi, but I think that I felt that the show itself played like how the relationship plays out. I think was logical. It was warranted.
Yeah.
It didn't feel too cliche. Like there was points where they could have leaned a little let me just say the
Listen.
Pocahontas side of things where
Yeah,
it's
that's a
the out it's the foreigner or outsider comes
yeah,
and meets this lovely native woman and they fall in
right.
love and
No,
she understands
they
how
straight up
bad
had to
life
have a
is.
scene with him.
You know,
He painted that loosey clothes. Oh god, you don't know
uh,
what
uh,
they
I
know what they
know.
do. They know what they do.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
they know what they do.
Yeah, that was done on purpose, right?
Yeah,
But I guess they had to find some way, not just for Malik to meet Nawi, but for them to be attracted to each other, I guess, right?
right,
But
right, right,
it
right.
works, right? Even the way how the relationship ends, that's not I'll say without spoiling anything, I thought worked, right? I would say is one of those moments or pieces of writing that, like, if anybody else did write it, they probably would have done a sloppy job at it.
Right.
But because points for casting, not just I should say in terms of the crew, having like just I would say uh like just the cast itself, like behind the scenes in terms of the creativity, be predominantly women, right? So
Right,
yes,
right.
yeah, you had let me see if I get the name. um so you had Dina Stevens, you had Maria Bello, yes, actress
Right.
Maria Bello, as in History of Violence, Maria Bello,
Yeah, yeah.
and Dina Stevens herself coming up with the story, right? So yeah, you kind of needed the woman's touch in terms of like where these characters go, right? Especially now we do, because yeah, it could have gone into cliche derivative.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, I'm
I,
gonna
I
run
still
off with
think
the outsider
like
because he
like
loves
even
me, but
though
no, they played off very, very intelligently, I must say.
yeah, even though they handle the politics for the most part, it's still, still have a white woman, white feminism vibe to the whole thing, which I felt like it handle a little better. But however, it's fine. It meant to be, again, Braveheart. It meant to be mainstreamed and not really meant to be, this super deep thing. That's why I'm not really fighting it down in that point, at least from my perspective. But it's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
And lastly, in terms of Nawi's story arc too, I like that it is ultimately a coming of age, right? Coming of age story. I don't want to spoil anything beyond that, right? So even in the last moments involving her and Malik, it still plays all like a coming of age stuff, but
Right.
again, not in a derivative kind of way. It feels logical. It feels like, well, yeah, this is kind of like what she has to do. She has to go on her own path, right? And that's one thing I love about her story arc. It's all about characters kind of going on their own path. Like she is put in this group of warriors and pretty much told that she has to follow the rules and do everything that they say, and she can't, do this or do that, right? But here's like, well, circumstances. So, but even despite that, I am still part of this group. We're still family. We're still sisters. I love that. You really do feel that camaraderie between the members um of the Agojili. If I have a couple gripes though, I just felt like the villains themselves, right? Like I understand
It's straightforward,
in terms
simple.
of films like this, yes, the slavers are really, really bad, right? And
Yeah.
even Oba, like the general, like he is scum and he's
Yeah,
evil and
easy,
it's all
easy
about
last boss.
power.
Yeah, easy last boss. He had a fight.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah. But I do like that they give the guy just a little bit of like character depth, right? So it's not
Right.
just about power and all that kind of stuff. There's more to it than
But
that. There's actually that
he
moment
had a couple
involving
like
him
cool
talking
moments. Yeah,
to John Boyega's character. I thought that worked.
right.
But still, ultimately, I wish that we got a little bit more depth to him. He just kind of
Right.
came off as the marauder, and you look at me and my evil tribe with guns and horses, rah,
Yeah.
like, yeah,
But they had a couple like interesting moments, like little visual language moments that I like to it. Where stuff like um, again the horses stuff, like the guns. This is men only use the guns in even in the Dahomey, which is interesting.
yes,
Um, Stuff like the gender politics of Europe invading Africa. So like the movie sells the conceit that no, the default was the gender equality, and then Europe brought in the patriarchy stuff. Like I like that, and they make him very explicitly patriarchal from since the beginning, right? They have a
yes,
couple lines. Oh well, look how you get defeated by women, ha ha ha, and everybody oh
yes. I remember
right
that.
that
Mm.
was right. they make it work for that conceit, and then the big legends of the mythology of it, where it had a male and a female, the equal, they sell all of that argument. The idea of the woman king was a whole idea, it's a whole traditional idea. I like how it played that conceit, like, because
Yes.
we still, a lot of our societies still play a lot of anthropology as if patriarchy was some kind of default historically, and that's not entirely true, right? It had, waxes and wanes, and they
Yes.
make that work for what it was, and I really enjoy that.
Yes.
Um,
And well, yeah. So
yeah,
that's just a couple more things. And speaking of that, though, I just love how even though the story is pretty straightforward, there's
yeah,
a lot of like complexity and nuances to like everything that's going on. Whether it's the idea of this all female group of warriors, or the way how the king moves towards them, and how he kind of looks at General Naniska, right? Respecting her, but at the same time, kind of expecting her to follow everything that he says and why and all that kind of stuff, right? Everything kind of feels logical, even right down to the inclusion of slavery and how it all plays out, and just the trade aspect of it all, and why it kind of still exists, even though it was around the time where it was where people were at least kind of considering different ways to do business, right? So I love
right.
how the show touches on that too. Um, Also, where the show shines through is the characterization, especially with the Niska, right? Especially like a really tragic backstory involving her, right? And
Right. Yeah.
it's just how brave the show was to kind of touch on that, right? I mean, it's
Right.
not
Right.
like explicit or disturbing, but yeah, I mean, it is really sad though. But it works in terms of showing why the character
It's,
is
it's,
who she
it's a great
is.
arc. It's a great like conceit arc, because it's not, again, let us compare this to Blonde. It's not
We could compare
exploitative.
anything to blood right now.
Yeah. But it's not exploitative. That's what I like about it. It's they treat it as serious as it should be. It doesn't feel silly or anything like that. And when they reveal it, it's a great moment. It's a great character moment and beat for her now. I was like,
Agreed.
okay, that
Yes.
real hard though. Like they make it work. They totally make it work. It didn't feel contrived or forced or anything like that. Everything just flowed naturally, and it made perfect sense in the narrative. I was like, now way to make it work.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what I like about with Viola Davis, all right, so if I remember correctly, there's a little bit of drama again, going back to the history slavery controversy issue. If I remember correctly, I think Lupita Nyong'o was supposed to play this role. And Lupita Nyong'o, because she's Kenyan, and our whole story with that, she
Oh,
declined.
okay. I didn't.
I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah, it does look like the type of show that she would be a part of now, just because of
Right,
her look alone, right? Yeah.
right, exactly. But she was supposed to do the role, but she declined, and had a whole drama with that. I don't really know the full details. But to me, ultimately, even though I think Lupita would have been okay, Viola works better. And I'll tell you why. She's older, right? Viola looks like if she could be a grandmother now.
Yes, yes.
And they sell the idea of her being an older woman, still being jacked as hell, but being an
Oh yeah,
older
oh
woman,
yeah.
and gaining that sheer battle respect now, over time. And I like there's a really good scene with the scars. And then well, the scars involve the big plot reveal about one of the characters. But that
Mhm.
scars scene I really like. Just little stuff like that.
Yeah.
It does a lot of
Also,
good.
well, something that we could kind of spoil. When they did the blood oath, right? There's a moment where she shows her arm and you see scars there, which can
Yeah,
tell. Yeah, she's been doing. They've been doing this. She's been doing this. Sorry, for
a
years
hot
now. I
minute.
mean,
Yeah, a
I
hot
love that.
minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I feel it ultimately works better because the character is so much older now. Right? She looked like she could be in her 50s, if anything. 50s, probably even early 60s, possibly, right? And they make it work for what it is. And I really enjoy that, for what it
Yes.
is. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Couple things. This again. I mean, this is a very, very, very well shot film, though. Gina
Yes.
Price, by the way, she knocked it out of the park. Direction wise, cinematography, which is also done by a woman, Polly Morgan. I mean, she's been in the game for a long while.
Yeah, yeah,
Quite
yeah.
recently, she worked on A Quiet Place Part Two. Some great
Right, right.
visuals there. Yeah, yeah. Like they got a great like cast and crew dread to work on this. So you must say, right? And I have to mention too, fight choreography great as well, right? Um, and you could tell like a lot of the I should say some, if not all, of the actors were doing their own stunts, if you will. Even Viola Davis too get to throw down as well too, while you see it and it looks glorious, Shred. But lastly, boy, one of the names that caught me completely by surprise, right? So funny thing, while I was watching this movie, I was telling myself, the way how it flew in and the scenes put together and whatnot, this feeling like something out of the 90s. This feel like if this thing came out in the 90s, this
Yeah,
would have been nominated for Best Picture or whatnot. This would have been a classic like if it came out in the 90s
yeah.
or 2000s, right?
That's what I like about it. It feels they covered their base. Like it just feels like all four quadrant kind of filmmaking. And I would argue the reason why it was held back is because of the subject material. You could tell that there's some like they're trying to make it for a while, and it's some
Yeah,
some
I was thinking the same thing too. Like they was
yeah,
trying
and it's
at
some
this for
it's some
years,
studio
boy.
exec. Some studio exec telling them, well, you know, I think I'll make money because it's black people, some bullshit like that. Now you get a vibe from it. I think it was I think they was trying to make it for about a good 10 years or so, if I remember correctly. But even then it would have been a dated idea now. Not dated in the sense of outdated or old, but like they wanted to harken back to our old style of filmmaking in that sense of marketing and you just do the straightforward thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So I was taking in the music, I was real taking in the music trend. And it's only in the end when I see who did the score, I was like, yeah, that's why I get in that 90s feel trend. They get Terrence Blanchard to do the score for this
Right.
trend. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, they
yes.
get solid people.
Yes, this score absolutely works too. It just has that I'll use it in classic, film style to it just has that classic music score to it though, where it really does feel like you're watching some sort of like epic adventure film from like the 90s, man. It just really has that feel to it, right? And of course, Terrence Blanchard, I mean, worked on tons of Spike Lee joints over the years. I mean, it's a perfect fit, right? And lastly, in terms of music though, I love the incorporation of African music in it. If not just with instruments, but also through singing and chanting, right? Yeah, it just adds such a great touch to this film, man. So yeah, if you folks can tell by now, yes, we dug the hell out of this one. Um, and I was surprised at how competent it was, how well
Yeah.
acted it was, how well structured it was, and just there's greatness across the board though. Not a perfect mind you though, but in terms of just just capturing that feel of well, for me, just capturing the feel of just experience of the film for the first time with like a packed audience and just hearing the cheers and laughing and all that kind of stuff, it just took me back to that era, man, and I just had a blast watching this film. This is one that I'm going to remember for a long while, and I would love to experience this again in theaters very soon, man. So rating wise, I'm going to give this a strong 4 to like 4.5 out of 5, man. I absolutely love this film though. Viola Davis, she crushed it. Tuso Mabedu, I agree with you. She deserves more roles though, because she crushed it in Underground Railroad. She crushed it here. She needs more. Tashana Lynch, she is destined to be an action superstar. Trust me.
Yeah.
Sheila Atom, I want to see more films with her. John Boyega again crushed it as well too. I mean, everybody did their damn thing, man. So yeah, the Woman King is the real deal. You all need to check this out as soon as.
Yeah.
Last words rated.
I fully agree with you. Rated 8 out of 10 for me. I thought it was pretty damn good. Yeah, they cover its conceit so well, it covers its bases so well, and it's a real crowd pleaser for what it is. It was excellent. I also got a lot of cheers in my screening. This was it was a kind of trial run screening, but it had enough people for noise and crowd and thing. And again, it's out
Nice. I thought it was gonna be like this, like 8 people or something, like a little bit of people.
No, it was a reasonably surprisingly packed crowd, for what it was, because like this was where they call ahead of time and most enough people was aware of was the screening. So yeah, a good bit of people was there, and it was that. I enjoyed for what it is, solid business across the board for me. Yeah, 8 out of 10. In fact, 8.5 out of 10. The more I think about it, actually, it really does a good job.
5, man. Give it that 0.5.
Yeah, it really covers the conceits and the basis so well, and it just it's one of those movies for everybody. It kind of does everything, and the movie kind of has almost everything in it. It's like, wait, I didn't know this was in it, I didn't expect this in it. Like it really does a good job with all its material and make it work. Excellent overall for me.
Yeah, man.